Hello, and thank you for joining our session today. We want to do a deep dive into the world of Windows in the cloud. We are here with experts from Microsoft and Nerdio. Let me start with introducing a little bit myself. My name is Max Steigner. I'm an end-user computing expert at Devoteam, and I'm also joined by Jens.
Hello, I'm Jens de Voer. I'm a cloud endpoint technical specialist at Microsoft. It's a mouthful, but basically I work daily with Windows 365, AVD, and Intune.
My name is Bas van Kaam, EMEA Field CTO, responsible for everything that's technical related with customers and partners.
Today, I want to talk a bit about Windows 365, Azure Virtual Desktop together and how it transforms the business at the moment, what we see at our customer. Because there is really a lot of movement there and a lot of going forward with the needs of the customer, with new features and all this kind of thing. And I want to especially hand it over a little bit to Microsoft. What are the current trends? What you saw what we saw in the past from the last Ignite, and what are you seeing from your side? What are the benefits and all the kind of things which are announced from Microsoft?
Yeah, I really like the way you mentioned it as being the Windows in the cloud, because that's what we're trying to achieve, putting Windows in the cloud through Azure Virtual Desktop, through Windows 365. And you notice with everything we're doing that we're also heavily steering in that direction. With Windows 365 Frontline, we've brought non-persistence to Windows 365. In the past, non-persistent was a thing for Azure Virtual Desktop. So again, bringing that to both solutions, both as a PaaS story or as a SaaS story. How much do you want to do yourself? Where can we help you? If you look at Windows 365, you also have the Windows 365 Link now. Our first piece of dedicated hardware specifically for Windows 365. Bringing that to the user, bringing that cloud PC tangible physically to the user. But also on Azure Virtual Desktop. We've rebranded, we've started with Azure Local. Bringing selected Azure services to your on-premise. Enabling organizations to do that as a first step. And then also, we're bringing AppV to Azure Virtual Desktop. As something we were not offering yet, is now there. So a lot of organizations we're asking and we're looking into this. And I think that tends to show where we're focusing on.
You said even Appetech, which I see a lot on the field with MSIX publishing and all this kind of thing. This is also what really I see, which transforms it. And how does it look like from the Nerdio side? What you guys are seeing there?
Yeah, lots of things happening around Appetech as well. Lots of testing. It's still relatively new, you could say. But yeah, definitely now with these new announcements, it's going to take off, I think. Or even more than it did before. Just one thing you just mentioned, Jens, about links specifically for 365. Do you think that's going to be available for AVD, Azure Virtual Desktop, in the future as well, or it's not certain yet?
Personally, I have no idea. Okay. For now, you notice in the way we're going that Windows 365, it's really bringing an endpoint to the cloud.
Right.
When we're talking Azure Virtual Desktop, we're mainly looking at virtualization, creating your own race car, getting all the knobs and pieces together, and that's where Nerdio comes in and is great at helping. Yeah. But if you look at Windows 365, you just go into the shop, you buy a car. If you just need to drive to work, you'll just get a car.
Yeah.
And that's where Windows 365 Link also fits in. Can you do everything yourself and make it custom and do all the bits and pieces for AVD? Yes, and there are solutions for that. But with Link, it's just plugging it in and it will work.
Yeah.
Managing it's Intune.
Yeah.
Everything boils down to this one method. So for me, that's where it fits in, and also where it really shows if you're going with a virtualization approach or an endpoint approach.
Right. Makes sense.
This is exactly where when you look at the customers, look in the real world scenarios, what we are really seeing on that side, there is a big need of automation, of make simplicity in that kind of way. And also I was in multiple projects over the last years, and I see a lot moving away from traditional VDI environments in that kind of ways and going, okay, what is in the cloud, what we can deliver, how easy can we deliver? Because in the past, when we think about the really starting points and that it's not so far away with Windows 365 and AVD, it was feeling like, okay, you have a toolbox and here you can start. But now after this kind of years, we are really moving into an automation way where we can either go with, let me say, DevOps way, delivering AVDs and all making that happen. But when it comes then, and this is one of the big points at our customers, which I see is when it comes to day two operation, daily business, operational costs, and all these kind of things, I see there is a big gap at the moment where also then Windows 365 fits in and say, okay, we're coming also with a full self-service and that kind of things. And also we are seeing a need of the AVD environment, making it simple. And this is also why Nerdio I'm so important, I think, and bringing simplicity. And maybe you can explain a little bit what you see on the customer side.
Yeah, that's what I see as well. I think it's pretty steep learning curve. That's what we hear from customers as well when you're talking about infrastructure as code, you know, DevOps, that type of thing. And that's where Nerdio comes in, making things easy or as easy as they possibly can be, automating all those recurring tasks, right? Those types of things. Especially like you just mentioned, when moving away from a traditional, let's say, VDI solution, you're used to working with graphical user interfaces, for example, right? That's what Nerdio is all about as well, sort of integrating all those different management interfaces that you have if you do things natively, like Intune and AVD and all those things. We combine it into one single interface, so you can manage Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Intune, unified application management, all those types of things. But again, all based on the graphical user interface. So it's basically doing DevOps, but then sort of the easy button for that, you could say.
Right, Bas. And this is also what we see from Devoteam side. When I look at the current project and also about the discussion which we're having around with the customers, we're seeing a lot of needs of simplicity, as you're providing as well. And also, this is the point why we said as Devoteam, let's bundle it up. Let's make a whole solution box out of this. And this is why we're saying with automation and also with concepts and that kind of things. And where we're saying we have our cloud enabler framework, which really is a huge box and have a lot of opportunities for the customer, for the business needs, for the combinations, where we then saying, okay, if it's either AVD, if it's Windows 365, or it's even DevBox, or it's even Azure Local in combination with all of this, together with Nerdio, because we said, okay, let's combine this kind of thing. We have for our customer a solution in that kind of box with our cloud enabler framework, where we say, okay, it brings simplicity, and it also gives the freedom to the customer saying, hey, I have for this use case that, for this use case this, and this one size fits all, because this is not what is existing anymore, I think, in our areas. So we have special use cases. And there's where I see it brings a benefit. And I also want to see how Microsoft sees that kind of thing with a bit one size fits all.
What you say is perfectly true. The first thing we do when we get in contact with customers or organizations is talk about virtualization. We'll not pinpoint a solution, we'll talk about what's your issue, how can we help you, and then we move into the solutions. AVD, DevBox, Windows 365, on Azure, with Nerdio, there are a ton of different solutions that always fit best for a use case. We don't see you should use Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows 365 or DevBox. No, we see an end story. It's almost never exclusively that an organization decides we will only go for this solution because this is the holy grail of it. No, we talk to them and we help them. And that's where we also see partners like Devoteam and partners like Nerdio come in to assist us and to bridge the gap so we can have one approach towards different solutions.
Like you mentioned, it's about the use case, what's the problem that needs to be solved. And it's often a combination as well. I mean, when Windows 365 Cloud PC came out, AVD was already around for 2 years or something like that, I think, 2.5 maybe. So we had day one support, and what we now see is that customers who have been using AVD for the last few years now have use cases more specific for Windows 365, for Cloud PC, in combination with Intune, because it's not just 365, of course. And that's the nice thing, that we can combine all those things into a single interface. And even with DevOps, for example, we can combine that as well. It's always the usual suspects that customers are struggling with a bit. Image management, being able to manage the environments at large scale, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 users, those types of things. And that's where we can combine, native technology from Microsoft with the things that we do at Nerdio, and of course, together with DevOps when it comes to the approach to the customers as well. That's I think that's a perfect combination of the three of us, basically.
Yeah. I want to also look a little bit about the use cases which you maybe have in mind, and also what experiences or projects you have. Maybe you can share as well from Microsoft perspective what you are currently see as a lighthouse project, and also which you can a little bit talk about that, so that we give a little bit of an insight.
Yeah, what we see often, it's how we handle external contractors or external users or offshore developers. Basically, everyone within an organization that should get Windows, but maybe should not get physical hardware. Today, we see that there are a lot of issues with this. How do we get the laptop there? How do we make sure that it gets there in one piece? How do we get the user to the laptop then? Which is not always easy.
Exactly.
If everything goes well, at the end, how do we get the laptop back? All these things, they have a cost associated with it. And this is something where virtualization can really, really help. This is one of the key use cases, because today organizations are losing money because they're not doing that in the most efficient manner possible. Of course, and that's where the challenge from an IT perspective comes in, we have to do that while keeping that same level of end user experience, which is something we can do together with Windows 365, together with AVD, and with partner solutions like Nerdio.
Even for acquisitions, what I see a lot is on the customer side, having a quick move when they have a new acquisition, onboarding them to the environment, come with the data later, and all this kind of thing. This is also where this, let me say, virtual desktop environments, this Windows in the cloud, can really help and shine, and helping on a quick way to onboard the new companies.
The business still thinks too often a migration, it's fingers,
Exactly.
a snap of the fingers, but it is not.
And managing.
And their solutions like this can tremendously help speed up things.
Yeah, I think when you talk about migrations, things like applications, data, those are the biggest time-consuming factors throughout the migration. You need to do all the testing. You're going from Windows 10 to Windows 11 now, for example, right? Those types of things. So, yeah, that's where we have big focus as well, together with Microsoft, of course, and that's where Intune comes in, for example. Unified application management from a Nerdio perspective, the combination of the two. So yeah, that's quite interesting to see sort of that shift as well.
And even for me, organizations that are having these discussions internally, should we look at virtualization as an endpoint strategy? Today, they start these conversations because of Windows 10 end of life or sustainability needs. Why shouldn't we use this hardware longer if we can extend the life with a virtualization solution? These are all steps we're taking towards offering Windows through whatever means possible.
And look, even with Azure Local, we are seeing, and this is what we see in our countries, a lot of movement at the moment, because we are now can bring AVD into the data center and make it possible that they can stay there as well, and doing the confidential data which needs to stay in the data center, connecting it and making it happen that you can adopt Azure Virtual Desktop.
Yeah.
Right. This is also something we are now, when I think about the past, and now I'm thinking about now, it was a long way. It was a short but long way from a technology-wise, a lot of features which are going on, and now we are enterprise ready. And I think we have almost, even with the combination of Nerdio, and I really like a lot of features there with scripting, and gives a lot of handy tools here in that combination with scripted actions as well. And also you're an early adapter on Azure Local, right? So it makes the simplicity here as well. This is also something why I see it so important that we, as a consultant company and making solutions, partnering with Nerdio and partnering with Microsoft, and really close, and also even talking really early together and giving you feedback, okay, how does it work, and then giving you feedback from the projects which we are seeing.
Yeah, if you look at everything we offer, and you offer on top of it, there's almost no excuse to not look at virtualization anymore.
Exactly.
We have to lose the image of virtualization that we had 10 years ago. We're not there anymore.
No.
We've gone miles and miles further.
Yeah, I think with local as well, or it's now called Logo. Maybe for the viewers, it was called Azure Stack HCI, but that's more of a technical name,
Yeah.
which wasn't really clear what it meant, right? So I think that's a big step forward, even though it's not technology related. Yeah, that's we see a huge uptake on those kinds of deployments as well. Keeping it in your own data center for for data purposes. Low latency, for example, is another one, right? I mean, not everybody can do an express route, so a direct connection from the data center to Azure, for example. It's not always possible. It's not in the budget, for example, could be the case as well. So yeah, definitely.
Or even for a migration purpose, so just for a short period of time to help the customer to save time for the whole migration into the cloud.
Sure. Yeah.
That's also a point
Absolutely.
where I'm seeing.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we finish off, I want to also talk a little bit about examples which we, Devoteam, Microsoft and Nerdio maybe have. So also bringing a value that our customers are not alone. Because when I'm currently looking at my customers, I have multiple scenarios, but also which I see, and this is quite an interesting thing in the food industry, where we are seeing currently, even with Nerdio together, we implementing Nerdio, and we also, during the project, we identified, okay, we have a need of also AVD plus also Azure Local, and we are now starting with a pilot and going and making a mixture. And even this customer is also starting and saying, hey, I have developers, which are, we all know, can be really challenging task to onboard developers into Windows in the cloud, where we are starting with Windows 365. So it's a perfect example where we're coming with all the three technologies. But I'm also interested to hear from Microsoft what you are currently dealing with and what other customers are using.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of discussions with the financial services and the financial industry. I've worked closely with my colleagues also in the Netherlands on use cases where we just took everything that organizations are doing from a virtualization perspective, evaluated and decided what's the approach that we're going to take here. Eventually, they went with Windows 365. If you ask them why, they compared everything and they came to the understanding, cost-wise, it all makes sense. Everything makes sense. AVD, Windows 365, there are multiple options. But from a management perspective, they decided we'll standardize and go for the Intune approach. I will go for the endpoint approach. It might be virtualization, but they're managing endpoints, which is really cool to see how they tackled that.
Yeah. Yeah, we, if I take an example, we worked with a big pharmaceutical company based in Europe, a couple of thousand users. They were already using Azure Virtual Desktop natively, but it was like I mentioned in the beginning, things took a lot of time. And they had quite a hard time also to right-size the environment. So which types of machines do we need to use? Do we need to, do we need a little bit more CPU, a little bit more RAM? And testing took a lot of time. Nerdio came into the picture together with Microsoft, by the way, as well. And what we saw was with the recommendation engine we've built into Nerdio, after a couple of weeks, historical data was collected. And Nerdio told them exactly which types of machines they could consider using to lower cost, to optimize the user experience, those types of things. So I always mention it's sort of having a Nerdio system engineer looking over your shoulder 24/7, constantly telling you, have a look at this, have a look at that. You can further optimize this. If you don't do something there, you probably will have users complaining about slow application performance or something like that. So that's how we were able to really help them. So even during the POV phase, 30-day free trial was more than enough after 2.5, 3 weeks of running Nerdio with a couple of hundred users even, not the full couple of thousand. We saw, okay, this can be optimized, there. That can be optimized there. A little bit of AI integration we have now as well, even showing you exactly which steps you need to take to further fine-tune, to further operationalize. Those examples I gave in the beginning, save on time and save on the economical side of things as well. So there was a perfect example of how the technology helped to sort of solve the issue that they had. Lower the resources needed to manage the environment, and at the same time take care of the sort of economical aspect of things as well.
And as with both examples, it's bringing everything together.
Exactly.
Having the right resource at the right time, to the right cost.
And to finalize on that, so the narrative, what we always share with customers as well, the time saved, it's not about firing people or anything like that. It's about
Exactly.
You have more time to focus on more fun things for the engineers, for example. That's quite important in our profession, let's say. But also more strategic projects. It's not putting out fires all day long, those types of things. So yeah, I think that's combined how we sort of help customers on the way as well. I think that's an important thing.
Also, what we always saying, transforming this kind of areas from a cost center to a value center.
Yeah, exactly.
And helping the customer to saying, even with the folks which are already there, to focus on the important thing, not doing, hey, my session was not working, please reset, and all this support thing.
Yeah.
And I like the way how Nerdio, for an example, do the self-services kind of things. This is also something great. And even from Windows 365, hey, just reset my Windows 365 because it's not working. But I think we can talk endless. I want to
We
say,
can, if you want.
it's awesome, and I really like it, and I really looking positive into the future and saying, hey, we can transform our customer business, we can help, and I want to end here a little bit with a statement. And I'm happy to be here with you guys. I'm happy to join the party with Nerdio, with Microsoft together, making the partnership happening. Thank you, Jens. Thank you, Bas, for having you in that session. And thank you all for joining us. Hope that was giving you a good insight about Microsoft and Nerdio and also Devoteam. As you see, we are here to help you on your topics and your business needs for the Windows in the cloud, and we are happy to get in contact with you. Thank you.